streaming using Restream, and we are going on to 4 platforms. We're going on to 2 of my Facebook pages, LinkedIn, YouTube channel, that's Carol Bosca. If you'd like to go and subscribe, you will see all my videos there, and also Twitter as well. So welcome everyone. Today I wanted to talk to you about why coaches struggle with building their coaching practice. Now, I've worked with coaches for about 25 years, probably over 25 years in all honesty. And I worked for a company that pioneered executive coaching, and my job at the time was sales and marketing. And each coach had its own P&L, and they had to bring in their own business. So I've worked with coaches at a very high level, and equally I've worked with coaches who are just starting out and looking to get their first client. But whether you're a world-class coach or whether you're just starting out, there are certain things that I've observed as to why people struggle to build their practice. So the first thing is that what I see happen with a lot of coaches is they're not 100% as to why their business is struggling. So they might talk to a friend, they might talk to a business coach, they might talk to a guru in the field. And what they do is they get a piece of information, and that could be strategic, it could be tactical, or it could just be a golden nugget. And often what happens is they remember that information and they hear it, but they don't act on it. And then they sort of like go on for a couple of months, and they might start talking to people again, and they get another little bit of information. And sometimes they get some information that crosses over with what the previous person or people had said. And it's sort of like this continual of sort of like, I've got a big jigsaw puzzle and I'm putting the pieces. And when the pieces are connecting, it's because somebody's told me something before and I've come along and the same person has told me. So what I see a lot happening with coaches is they haven't got some of the fundamental building blocks in place. So for example, creating a client container. You have to have somewhere that you can nurture those relationships with your clients. And I ultimately tell people you should have 2 types of container. Somewhere where you can be very visible, like a Facebook page or a Facebook group or a LinkedIn group or a YouTube channel. And then somewhere that you can also connect to them in a written format, email. So I always say you need 2 containers. You need the container, which is the group, and you need the email container. But at the very least, what you should do is always have the email container, because we don't own social media platforms. And what you want to do is you want to get your client off of social media, or your potential client off of social media, and into your email list where you can nurture that relationship and you can grow it. So, but some people don't have an email container, but they have a fantastic Facebook group or a fantastic LinkedIn group or a fantastic YouTube channel where they are nurturing people. And everyone's different, and you've got to find the best place for you. That's what you've got to do. Somewhere where you can be very visible. That is just hi Donna, lovely to see you. So Donna Stewart is watching all the way over in Canada, and Donna is a weight loss coach. So welcome, Donna, to this live. So just to get back on track. So in order to build your practice, you need to have a client container. And a lot of coaches don't have a client container. And they say the reason why they don't have it is because of the tech. That's just an excuse, because it's never about the tech. It's always what's underneath the tech. Okay. So if we think about it in our life, we have probably learned to do things that have been completely alien to us, but we've had to start somewhere, like swimming, learning to swim, learning to ride a bike, learning to drive. I mean, swimming is pretty, takes a lot of courage and guts because you're putting yourself in water, you know, and it's pretty dangerous. Whereas when you're learning to drive, you normally have an instructor and they've got a set of sort of like, I was going to say keyboards, but they've got a set of manual stuff, the pedals that they can take over if there's going to be a problem, like the brake pedal. However, we still put ourselves through that. We understand that we need to learn to drive, or we need to learn to swim, or we want to learn to ride a bike. And we put ourselves through that pain and worry and fear, but also excitement that we're going to have to step outside our comfort zone and learn something. And we don't just throw ourselves, well, hopefully nobody just throws themselves into a pool and say, let me just throw myself in the deep end and see if I can figure it out myself. Excuse me. No, what we do is we have swimming lessons, or we have a driving instructor that helps us to actually get the tools, to learn the right processes and the order in which we need to do it. And then we take a test and we get a swimming badge at the end, or we get a certificate that says we can now drive on our own. So we definitely do things that take outside of our comfort zone. So what happens with a lot of business owners is they stop themselves from moving forward, from building their business. And they use the word, it's the tech, and it's never about the tech. What we've got to look is underneath that. And what often is underneath that is sometimes they simply don't know the steps. They need to work with somebody to learn the actual steps. And they don't necessarily feel confident about doing whatever it is, like say going live. You know, they worry, what are they going to sound like? What are they going to look like? What are people going to say? What happens if somebody says it's rubbish? I remember the very first time I wrote a blog post, a guest blog post. I'd been in business for, I think, not even 6 months. And excuse me, and I knew, I'm going to have to take some water. I knew that I had to, you know, blogging was all the rage. I'd come from the corporate world where, you know, I was getting our guys to blog. I knew that I was going to have to blog. And it was scary, because I thought all those things. What if someone tells me I'm rubbish? What if somebody says I haven't got a clue what I'm talking about? And you feel very, very exposed, but I still did it. I pushed my way through it. And was I nervous? Absolutely. And was I worried about what people were going to say, the comments they were going to leave? Absolutely. And when it was okay, it was a real sigh of relief. And then I wrote another blog post for them the following month. And I put myself through it again. Excuse me, sorry. And but again, I pushed through that. I had breakfast and a piece of toast went down the wrong way, and it's making it a bit difficult for me. So I remember going through that, and I remember the anxiety I felt. And after the first one was done, it was a big sigh of relief. But then I did it again the following month, sent in another blog post. And again, I was nervous, not as much as the first time, but come the 5th and 6th time, I wasn't nervous. And what I realized was people weren't being horrible. And actually, it was absolutely okay for somebody to disagree. Not everybody's always going to agree. And a lot of the time, I was also learning from it as well, which was brilliant. And that's absolutely the same with elements in your business, whether that is, look, the one thing that's missing from your business is that you're not really connecting with your clients. So you need to do some videos so that they can see you. Or, okay, you're connecting with your clients, people know you, but actually it's going nowhere, and you need an email container. And therefore, if you created, figured out how to use an email management system, then you could go through that and do that. And it's about just saying to yourself that you're going to be brave enough to make that step and commit to doing it. And often what happens is once you get through that barrier of learning and you know what to do, it then starts feeling a lot easier. I personally have meltdowns when I have to do the tech. But what I do is I say to myself now, okay, I'm just going to learn how to do this bit. Then once I've learned how to do that bit, I can then move on to the next. So I've been doing more YouTube recently, and I started that towards the end of August. And my thing was just do the video and get it up onto YouTube. And then what I learned was how to create playlists. And I watched videos on YouTube as to how to create playlists. And then I was using a company called rev.com to put my captions on. So that was easy. Now I was creating these videos which had captions on, and I was putting them up into YouTube and putting them into the right playlist. And then I learned how to do these cards, but I couldn't have done all of that at the start. It would have been too much for me. Now, for other people, they would have easily been able to do that. But for me, because the tech is, I struggle with it, but I'm not going to let it beat me. I'm going to push through it. I just know I might take longer than somebody else to actually get it nailed. But once it's nailed, it's there, and I can go on and learn the next bit. And that is what holds a lot of business owners back from building a successful practice, is that there are certain things that they are fearful of, and they're either ignoring them and somehow hoping they're going to go away, which they never do, or they know that they're there and they're just avoiding it. They haven't got the knowledge, and they're not seeking out the right courses or people, or, there's a lot of stuff that you can do on the internet. It's not that you've always got to work with somebody or buy a course, but they might read a book about it, or they might watch some YouTube videos about it. They're not even doing that. They're just staying stuck. And when you stay stuck, yes, fear of the unknown is big. And there is a coach that I follow a lot called Rob Moore. And he has this saying which came from somebody. So Donna has just said fear of the unknown is big. So what Rob Moore says is to know and not to do is, I'm going to get this wrong now, but to know and not to do is to not know. So that was a quote from somebody else. So you can know something, but if you're not going to do it, it's absolutely no use. You're just as good as the person who doesn't know. In fact, you might even feel a bit worse because at least they don't know. You do know, and you're choosing not to do anything about it. And what I see is that this holds business owners back. This holds coaches back from really building a successful business. And what happens is they can go around this circle for several years, and then suddenly not the penny drops, but suddenly they have that realization moment that actually they need to do this. An example, I was working with a coach, one of my clients, over a year ago, probably 18 months ago, and they were in one of my masterminds, and I said, this is the gap in your business. And I gave some really clear strategic advice as to why it wasn't working and what they needed to do. Fast forward 18 months, hasn't done anything about it at all. Still the same problem. And their business isn't growing. And they sort of like lull themselves into a false sense of security. Oh, we're building this online. Well, that's been going for 6 months and you haven't built anything online. Or, we've got this opportunity to work with this place and that's really exciting. And the whole thing is and that's great when they get those clients and it is exciting. But actually, it's 18 months and your business is still in the same place. It's not growing. Now, that's fine if you don't want it to grow. If you just want to go with the ebb and flow, and if something lands into your inbox, brilliant. If it doesn't, it doesn't. That's okay. But for some people, that's not how they want to grow their business. For them, that isn't growing a business, that's staying stuck. And you have to progress yourself forward. So you have to look at where are the gaps in your business. And if you don't know, then ask a business buddy to help you, do a bit of an exchange with each other, or invest in working with a coach to help you identify where those gaps are. And that doesn't have to be a big, full-blown 6-month program. It can just be a one-off session. It can be a one-off strategic planning session. And then what you can do is you can start to say, okay, I need to plug up those gaps. I'm not going to plug up all the gaps all at once, but I need to have a very clear way forward as to how I'm going to plug the gaps up and what gaps I'm going to plug up first. And you need to have that, and you need to take those steps forward in order to help you, because once you do, everything starts changing. It just starts changing. And I knew, I've told this story before, I'm going to tell it again, but probably about 5 years ago, I was working with a coach who was super successful. She's still successful. And I had just left like my corporate job, and I worked for actuaries. So the one thing we did, and when you're in marketing, the one thing you do a lot is analyze. You analyze and you figure things out, because marketing is also about anticipating what's going to happen in the market, what's going on. And I analyzed her approach and why she was doing so well. And what I discovered was she was turning up in her Facebook group several times a week doing training with them, doing this for free. And they loved it. Like one week, it might be a challenge. The next week, it might be a 3-day training. The following week, it might just be a one-off webinar that she's doing in the group. And a lot of the time, she was also selling on the back of it, but not every single time. So people in her group were getting a great deal of training, insight, advice, all for free. And her business was growing and growing and growing. And she does 7 figures now. And I noticed the key differentiator was doing video and going live like this. Like I normally go live with a set of slides, but what she was doing was just doing like a talking head as I'm doing now. And she had her notes at the side and she'd go through those notes. And of course, what happens is you get this effect of that people begin to see you all the time. They get to know you and they think that you're friends. And there's a thing called the mirror effect. I talk about that in my course, Sales Mastery Conversations That Convert, when we're talking about selling on video. And although I had observed that and I saw that's how she was building her business, I still didn't do it myself. And not only had I observed it from her, but I'd also looked at other coaches and observed the same thing. And it wasn't until one of my coaches said to me, you need to just do more video. And then I thought, yeah, all right. And of course, as soon as I started doing more video, everything starts changing. It starts shifting. And it doesn't shift from day one. You need to give it about 2 or 3 months, but suddenly it really starts shifting. And people start coming out from, nowhere saying, can I work with you? Or I want to have, a strategy session with you, or I want to come on your program. It just comes out of nowhere. But that was all because of video. And video is incredibly powerful. But although I knew that, I still sort of like went around in this circle, which a lot of business owners do, not doing what I needed to do to implement it. And then as soon as you do, it all starts to change. So I hope that makes a lot of sense, and I hope that's helped you. So if you are struggling to build your business, just take a few moments back, think about where are the gaps in your business. Don't just put it down to the tech. If you don't know how to do something, you need to learn how to do it. We've all done those things in our life. We just need to remind ourselves that we have been brave enough to step up and do something and learn how to do it that we've never done before. And once you start doing those things, your business will just start growing, and it just gets very, very powerful. You need to remember that you've got to believe in yourself. You've got to trust that you will do the right thing. And once you start to do it, the confidence will come. So I hope that's been helpful. If you've got any questions, please put them in the comments. I will look through all of my channels and I always answer any questions. So have a great day, everyone, and have a brilliant weekend. Bye for now.